All right, you guys. Alex Caruso is dead spot on talking about Michael Pittman and the top 5 upside that he carries, being tied to at least a better quarterback in Matt Ryan, another year in the offense with Frank Reich, so on and so forth. I 100% get that. But I want to talk to you today about another pass catcher within that offense. And not Alec Pierce. I know everybody's like super excited about him. Not Mo Alley Cox. I mean, let's save our discussion for late round tight ends for another day. But let's go ahead and talk about the other running back in that offense. Jonathan Taylor, I know, is the star, 100% deservedly so. But let's go ahead and take a second and talk about Nyheim Hines and what his value could be to your best ball roster as we go along throughout the offseason in today's episode of By the Numbers. So let's go ahead and talk about Nyheim Hines. I mean, I know that third down role, pass catcher, scat back, whatever label that you want to assign to him, he does have one of those roles that makes it hard to figure out what his week-to-week value is going to be. But still, it's only end of May, and we're already getting just a ton of hype. And of course, y'all know I love my charts, but I mean, it's just difficult to figure out like what is going on here, because we've got, almost everything like for Nyheim Hines, like so far. We got in late March already talking about it. He's gonna have a much bigger role. Even our own Sigmund Bloom talking about like he's going to have, a number of catches and he's going to be involved in the wide receiver room already. And then now we've got the big headline that just came out today, like earlier today on May 26th, saying that Nyheim Hines, or Frank Reich saying that he would draft Nyheim Hines if he was in fantasy. So the hype train is already well on its way. That drum beat is getting louder and louder, and by the week. And if there's smoke, there should be fire. And let's see if, at least from a quantitative standpoint, there's actually something behind what everybody's talking about, or where is there actually some smoke behind that, or some fire behind that. Now, looking at what the Colts did last year, this chart I think I've shown for the past like 3 weeks straight, looking at running back target share for each individual team like in the NFL. The Colts, top 10 in terms of targeting their running backs. Even with Carson Wentz playing poorly, we saw Nyheim Hines get his targets like last year, around 11-12% target share, and also Jonathan Taylor securing a number of targets as well, which is what vaulted Taylor into the RB1 conversation for this year. Now, the question is, though, was that by design? Like, is that something that has been, let's say common amongst the offenses that Frank Reich has run like over the past few years? Or was it a fluke? Was it just something that was more towards or more assigned to Carson Wentz, giving him a chance to check down instead of throwing some of those volatile or erratic throws? Just the question that I had as I was going through this. So trying to take a look at it a bit more, looking at the Colts offense, like throughout history so far, not the Colts offense, but Frank Reich's history, actually. It's kind of been a little bit volatile. It's been almost like on not necessarily a yearly basis, but the last couple of years have been fine with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. But prior to that, did we really have anything else prior to that? Like in 2019, 2018, well, we can assign some context to that. Andrew Luck retired. 2018 was Nyheim Hines' rookie season, so can't really expect too much, or at least a quick addition into that offense. 2017, the championship run with the Eagles. That's when Frank Reich was over in Philly. They had a strong receiver core then. Alshon Jeffrey, even Nelson Aguilar was playing well. Zach Ertz, so on and so forth. All right, well, let's go all the way back. 2015, 2014. That's when they had the powerful duo in Melvin Gordon in his rookie season, and also Danny Woodhead right behind him. And I know this might be something of a stretch, but you look at the archetype of the two running backs that are currently on the roster now with the Colts with Frank Reich, who do they most resemble? Out of any of the running backs that Frank Reich has worked with in his history, Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines fit almost, or like a decent one-to-one comparison to what he had with Melvin Gordon and Danny Woodhead. Think of the other running backs. The running backs that came through most of Philly, from Ryan Matthews to LeGarrette Blount. They had Darren Sproles there for a time, but we're talking about this combination right here. A combination of a powerful 1-2 punch, a running back that's capable of being able to shoulder the load throughout most of the games in Melvin Gordon, also has that slashing ability as a receiver, but also having, on top of that, a receiving back like in a guy like Danny Woodhead. Sounds a lot like Jonathan Taylor and Danny Woodhead to me. So what did that offense do? Like, what was that offense predicated on? Like back then, like, were they capable of actually targeting their running backs at a high rate? Well, absolutely. Their red zone target share back in 2015 at Phillip Rivers was number one, like in the NFL back then. So to me, it looks like if this is the type of personnel that Frank Reich now has at his disposal, something he was comfortable with, calling up, dialing up, like trying to get targets to those pass catchers, to those running backs back then, it kind of seems like we should be able to expect something similar, not the same, but something similar for Nyheim Hines. And Nyheim Hines, in his own right, he has been one of the more efficient running backs like in the league. Just last season, if you look at his average depth of target, while comparing that with his yards per route run, a stat that PFF tracks, an efficiency metric based off of the number of routes that you're running and the yards that you're accumulating, he was up there with the best of them. I mean, running decent routes, like had a decent average depth of target for running backs at 2.4. So that means he wasn't just either catching passes out of the backfield, but also running deeper routes, actually tied for third in deep routes amongst all running backs last season, up there with Cordero Patterson. This is not just your average scat back. This is not just a running back that's going to be able to just sit there and take targets out of the backfield. He's actually running legitimate routes. As we see, he's working with the wide receivers. But let's break this down. Let's talk about what the practical application for this as of right now. On Underdog, he's going at running back 48. He's going behind James Robinson. I mean, come on, y'all. I mean, James Robinson was injured late in the season. Travis Etienne already well back on his way to securing the primary workload in Jacksonville, and just ahead of Kenny Gainwell, who couldn't even break away from Miles Sanders last year. The hype train is one thing, but looking at the coaching tendencies, the offensive tendencies, and also the types of running backs that Matt Ryan has worked with in the past, from Cordero Patterson, Devonta Freeman, I mean, all guys that have secured 12 to 13% target shares, it all seems to work in Hines' favor. So go ahead and go out. Get you your shares of Nyheim Hines right now, especially at the cost he's going right now, and thank me later. But until then, I mean, check out all the rest of the shorts, check out all the rest of the videos that we've got going on at footballguys.com. For myself, Alex Caruso, Victoria, Troy, Dave, I mean, all the stuff that we've got going on right now. And I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.